She never thought she would find herself here, questioning her own reality. Trapped in a life that once seemed like a fairy tale, love was supposed to be her shield, her safe haven. Instead, it became her chain, tightening with every expectation, every demand, every unspoken rule she was meant to follow. At first, she didn't see it for what it was. The small comments, the casual dismissals, the expectations disguised as care. You don't have to worry about working. I'll take care of everything. It sounded like care, like devotion. But over time, she realized that what he meant was, I decide what matters, and your independence is not one of those things. When she first met him, his machismo wasn't obvious. It hid behind charming smiles and sweet words. She fell in love with the idea of him, the strong, silent type who knew what he wanted in life and wasn't afraid to go after it. She saw the respect in his friends' eyes, the admiration in their voices. To them, he was a man's man, a provider, a leader. And she wanted to be the woman who had it all. The beautiful house, the loving husband, the devoted community. She dreamed of being a wife who could provide him with an equal partnership, a shoulder to lean on, someone who understood and supported him. But as the months passed, she started to notice cracks in the foundation of their relationship. The casual sexist jokes, the dismissive comments about her role in the house. "Don't worry, I got this," he'd say when she offered to help with bills or chores. "You just relax and enjoy your life." She started to question if she was truly happy. Was this what she'd signed up for? Then came the subtle put-downs. "You're too pretty for your own good," he'd tell her before going out with the boys. "Make sure you don't attract any attention." These words were like stones in her stomach, heavy and uncomfortable. But she ignored them, convinced that his love for her was real, that he wouldn't hurt her intentionally. She told herself that she was reading too much into things, that her feelings weren't rational. But the isolation was the worst. Friends and family became a rare sight. Weekends out with the girls turned into quiet nights in. Phone calls were kept short, visits were cut brief. Slowly, her world became smaller, her support system thinner. She was alone in a sea of unfamiliar faces, nodding along, smiling politely, wondering where her old life had gone. He was the best at pretending. In public, they were the perfect couple. He, the charismatic leader. She, the supportive wife. People praised their relationship, envied their connection. But behind closed doors, the picture changed. The compliments turned to criticism. The affection vanished. In its place, a cold, distant stare. A Machista doesn't need to raise his voice to be loud. His expectations speak for him. His silence is heavier than his words. She was supposed to serve him, to anticipate his needs, to make sure the house was in order, the meals were ready, and her own dreams, well, those could wait. She would watch him take pride in his role as a provider while dismissing the invisible labor she carried every single day. He believed his long hours at work justified his absence at home. He believed his financial contributions were more valuable than her emotional and physical ones. He believed, without saying it outright, that his dreams were worth pursuing hers, optional at best, selfish at worst. She remembers the first time she told him she wanted to go back to school. He smiled, but it wasn't a smile of encouragement. It was the kind of smile that hides disapproval behind forced politeness. "That's great," he said. "But won't it take time away from the house?" From us, it was never a direct no. It was a carefully placed seed of doubt, a reminder that her duty was there, with him. Machismo wears a mask. It doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it looks like protection. "I just don't want anything to happen to you," he would say when she wanted to travel alone. "Why would you go out dressed like that?" "You don't need to impress anyone," when she wore something he deemed too much. It took her years to realize that what she thought was love was actually control. That his concern was a leash, pulling her back whenever she tried to step outside the role he had assigned her. that his rules were about his comfort, not her well-being. Love should never feel like a constant negotiation of one's own freedom, but with a machista, that's exactly what it is. One of the cruelest tricks of machismo is how it isolates its victim. At first, it feels like devotion. He wants her all to himself. We don't need anyone else, just us, he says. But little by little, her world shrinks. Her friends become a threat. Her family becomes a nuisance. He doesn't say she can't see them, but there's always a reason why it's inconvenient. They don't respect our relationship. They fill your head with ideas. They don't understand our dynamic. And so, without realizing it, she starts declining invitations. She stops reaching out. She builds her own prison, brick by brick, until one day she looks around and realizes there's no one left to hear her scream. The most dangerous part of being married to a machista isn't the things he does, it's what he makes her do to herself. She starts to doubt her own feelings. Am I overreacting? Maybe I am too sensitive. He's a good man. He doesn't mean to hurt me. She tells herself that things could be worse. He doesn't hit her. He doesn't cheat. He comes home every night. She convinces herself that these are signs of love, that they make up for everything else. But love shouldn't come with conditions. It shouldn't make her feel small. It shouldn't require her to erase parts of herself to make someone else comfortable. One day, something shifts. Maybe it's a comment that cuts too deep. Maybe it's the exhaustion of always walking on eggshells. Maybe it's the realization that she doesn't recognize herself anymore. For her, it was a moment of silence. A night when he was speaking, listing all the reasons why she was wrong, why her feelings were invalid, why his way was the only way. And as she sat there, nodding along, something inside her broke. She stopped listening. She stopped caring about his approval. And in that moment, she realized she was already gone. Leaving a machista isn't just about walking out the door. It's about unlearning everything she was taught to believe. It's about finding her voice after years of being told it didn't matter. It's about rebuilding a life she was convinced wasn't possible. It's terrifying. It's painful. But it's also the most liberating thing she will ever do. Because once she steps out of that world, once she reclaims her power, she realizes something he never wanted her to know. She was never the weak one. She was never the problem. And without him, she is finally free to be who she was always meant to be.